What's going on, suppers? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. On tap for today, we are going to talk X-Men and Wolverine and the future of the MCU and Phase 4. Make sure you check out everything Suit Up at thepaintlines.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe below. Guys, you ready to suit up?
Suit up.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Suit up. All right, guys, we are back. It is a crossover pod. We have Infinity Bros joining us today. As usual, our co-host is Jack Connell. Follow him on Twitter at JackConnellTPL. What's up, Jack?
Nothing much, just another Sunday. Ready to talk. Nice to meet Isaac. I'm ready to get into it.
All right, so we have to introduce our guest for tonight's show. It is Isaac from Infinity Bros. Make sure you follow that Twitter handle at _Infinity_Bros Infinity. What's up, man?
Hey, yeah. What's up, guys? It's so nice to meet you guys finally. I've been following you guys for a long time. Really like what you guys put out, especially honestly, the blend of sports and like nerdy stuff that I see coming out of you. I so appreciate that as like a sports nerd, basically. So no, that's like awesome. You don't see that very many places. So love that.
Speaking of sports nerds, we're a Philly-based podcast, and I got to ask you just for a second, can you please move that Dallas Cowboys fucking clock just a little bit further away from my man Captain America?
It's not moving, man. It's not moving.
All right. So on tap for today, we are going to talk, just a reaction to the Henry Cavill Wolverine news, and we're going to talk about X-Men and the future of the MCU and Phase 4. Let's get started. So a rumor is spreading right now that Henry Cavill will play Wolverine in Captain Marvel 2. Jack, what was your reaction to that?
It's kind of surprised. I really didn't expect. I mean, Henry Cavill is just such a staple in the DC cinematic universe. I know they're kind of having a bit of a falling out currently. I mean, I didn't really expect him to kind of jump ship, so I don't know what to take from this. I mean, I don't think he would be the worst Wolverine, but he's not really exactly who I had pictured in mind as a possible candidate, to be honest with you.
What about you, Isaac? Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I have kind of similar feelings. Like when I heard that rumor, I was did a double take. I was like, what? Henry Cavill? Like, I mean, I get it because he's just a great actor. And like, if you guys have seen The Witcher, he was amazing in that. So I think he could handle any role that is thrown at him. But yeah, it was just kind of like a strange rumor that came up, and truthfully, I don't think there's any like substance to it. I think it was just a rumor. But there's been other guys that have been like rumors have been thrown around about being talked to about being Wolverine too. So who knows? I don't think it would be much truth to it, but we'll find out, I guess.
Me personally, I liked it at first because I'm obviously a huge Henry Cavill guy. Long story short, a little bit about me, Isaac. I'm a DC guy. So obviously I love Superman. So I'm a big fan of Henry Cavill and Superman. I'm a big Witcher fan. Witcher 3 is hands down my favorite game of all time. So I love the show. But the more I thought about it as Henry Cavill, I didn't like it. I didn't like Henry Cavill as Wolverine. And I think it's because I want a fresh take on Wolverine, man. I want a more accurate take on the comic book version of Wolverine. I thought it was really funny, like reading the reactions when all this on Twitter about Henry Cavill being like too tall, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, Hugh Jackman's like 6'3".
Yeah, for real.
That was kind of funny, but I don't want to compose Logan. Logan needs to be this like fucking loose cannon, man. Yet Logan, when you look at Henry Cavill, that dude is so fucking attractive. He is so charming. I don't know if he can pull.
That's true.
He's like
so put together too. Like,
right?
You used to look at him and he's just like this like perfect looking man, right? Like
Because
that's exactly what you're saying. Like you look at him, you're like, oh my gosh.
I don't know if it's just because he played Superman, but he just looks like a 1950s like businessman.
He's perfect. He's perfect.
True,
he's so charming. He's just like the total pack. I'm so jealous. I'm just anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think personally that Hugh Jackman can pull off the intensity of the Wolverine, at least in my head, that I want. It's just not a good fit. But anyway, so when you think about it, that wasn't the thing that shocked me the most. Henry Cavill as Wolverine was not what shocked me the most. What shocked me the most was putting Wolverine in a Captain Marvel movie. That was the biggest, like, what the fuck kind of moment for me. I always thought that maybe Wolverine would be best in like a Hulk versus Wolverine or a Black Panther versus Wolverine in a big screen, in a big screen film would be epic. But that was really shocking, right? What about you, Isaac?
Yeah, no, I totally agree too. Like the news that it was going to be in Captain Marvel 2 is like, okay, well, what's the connection there? And I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but like there are other much better connections that could be made in the MCU, and Captain Marvel is not one of them, So yeah, it was just a kind of a bizarre way to introduce that rumor for sure.
And you look at the comics, yes, they have met in the comics, but the biggest thing there is Rogue. And Rogue and Captain Marvel definitely have a history. That would have been a much, much better kind of avenue to kind of introduce the mutants in the MCU. Any comments on that, Jack, before we move on to anything else?
Nothing. I mean, I'm kind of just was looking back. I really don't know. I mean, I really don't know if there's rumors really that legit. It just seems like it was a bunch of things thrown together in like a sense. It just feels like it doesn't make sense. Like Henry Cavill as Wolverine and Captain Marvel too. Like I feel like it's like when they're like when Jimmy Fallon's like the wheel impressions and it's like and they choose 3 random things. That's what I thought of.
Yeah, so like Rogue has one of the best moments with Captain Marvel in the comics. She steals, Carol's powers, and that would be kind of a really interesting way for the character to develop in the MCU, because Kevin Feige built, he put this character on a pedestal per se, and it was, meant for Captain Marvel to be the most powerful Avenger. Well, that would be kind of a cool way for Captain Marvel to strip her powers, make it a really kind of emotional, powerful story, character building story for Captain Marvel too. I'm good with Rogue. Not so much Wolverine. That's not the way to introduce Wolverine. Yeah. Go ahead, Isaac.
No, I totally agree with that. It just seems like kind of just out of the blue and weird that they would come up with that. So that's what makes me even think more so that it's probably just a rumor. So yeah.
Totally. And like when I think of Captain Marvel and Rogue especially, like that would be the most epic way to kind of establish maybe Mystique and the Brotherhood twisting Rogue, and that would be a really good way, man, to make the mutants like a threat to the MCU.
Right. Well, and introduce some new villains that we haven't seen in X-Men movies too. That would be a cool way to do that. So
yeah. So let's before we get started, before we like move forward with Phase 4, let's go back, man. Isaac, what was your favorite X-Men character as a kid growing up and currently?
So I actually didn't have a lot of experience with X-Men comics until the actual like X-Men movies came out with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And so, I mean, Hugh Jackman, like honestly, he's one of my favorite like actual casting of any superhero ever. And he made me love that Wolverine like role. And he was one of the reasons where I got into Wolverine comics was because of Hugh Jackman. So Wolverine is definitely my favorite. Maybe that's not the most unique character to love or anything like that, but I mean, you can't not love Wolverine as a character. He's just like so badass and just doesn't care what anybody thinks of him, So yeah, he definitely is my favorite. Let's see, I'm trying to think of, I guess I've always liked Nightcrawler too. Just the dichotomy of like, he looks so evil, like he looks almost like a demon type, creature or whatever, but he's got this like faith background that is just like his whole character basically. So I guess he's always kind of been one of my favorites as well.
Jack, what was your favorite X-Men character, man?
I mean, I feel like kind of it's not really my favorite X-Men. It's kind of like more like, I guess, X-Men subsidiary. I would say Deadpool.
Cool.
I don't know if you would really count him as an X-Men, to be honest.
Totally.
He's involved.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I mean, I'd probably go with him. I mean, he's just everything about the fourth wall, the comedic. It's just, I just love comedic relief, and I just feel like he plays it to a perfect tone with the violence and everything. It's just a perfect blend. I mean, we'll talk about more, but I absolutely love the Deadpool movies. I love Ryan Reynolds. So we'll get more of that later, but probably Deadpool is my guy.
I'm agreeing with Isaac because Wolverine, man, by far my fucking favorite. And I even saw him live, like on what was that, like on Broadway when he was doing the Greatest Showman tour.
Oh, dude.
And I'm like,
nice.
I'm sitting there with my wife. I'm like, need more Wolverine. There's no Wolverine. It was bullshit. The whole show was bullshit. I was very disappointed. All right,
Just expecting him to like tear off his clothes and he's got like a Wolverine costume underneath. Just start tearing up people on stage.
I wouldn't complain. All right, so obviously Wolverine. So I'm in my 30s. I grew up watching the 90s animated series. Wolverine, he's got this dynamic origin. He's lived forever. He can speak a ton of different languages. He's got like a dark sense of humor. He's a loner. And I had all the action figures. The Wolverine in that like yellow costume with the helmet.
Oh, yeah.
It's classic,
So good.
man. So it's just Wolverine by far is my favorite. Isaac, what would you say is your top 3 favorite X-Men film?
So based on basically my favorite casting being Hugh Jackman, Logan is by far my favorite X-Men film. That it's just so well made, and it was so different from all of the other X-Men movies that came out, and it was just like it was almost a breath of fresh air in the X-Men franchise, even though you knew it was obviously going to be his last one, and it was like a cap to his career as Wolverine. But it was so cool how we kind of got that old man Logan, which is one of my favorite Wolverine comics. And like we got that old man Logan kind of feel. Is just really, really great and well done movie. And they managed to incorporate, Patrick Stewart as Professor X into that movie too, which was amazing. So that's definitely by far my favorite. Do you want me to just do all 3 right now?
Yeah, do it, man.
All right. Number 2 is Days of Future Past.
Cool.
That one's just so good. Like one of my favorite parts of that movie is when James McAvoy, who plays an amazing Professor X as well, has the interaction with Patrick Stewart as older Professor X. Like that part is just like goosebumps every time I watch that. That's one of my favorite X-Men films of all time for sure. So, and then my number 3 would have to be First Class, which I feel like that one's a little more controversial. Like it wasn't like unanimously successful. There's a lot of people who didn't like First Class, but I just thought it was a really cool way to kind of like reboot, like do the prequels to the newer X-Men movies. And James McAvoy as Professor X and Michael Fassbender as Magneto was fantastic. Like those are some of the best castings in the X-Men franchise for sure. So love all those movies.
All right, Jack, go ahead, man.
I'm a sucker for solo films, so I probably have to go in no order. I agree. Logan probably was just great. I think that was a really well done movie. The score, everything about it was just fantastic. The tone of it, I think, was just really well done. I thought it was just a fantastic film in general. Like not even X-Men. It was just a really good movie. And then I also probably put the 2 Deadpool movies. Like I said, I love Deadpool. They were both beautifully well done. I loved every second of them. The minute that test footage came out for the first Deadpool, I was hooked. Because I read him, I kind of knew who he was, and seeing that I was like, wow, like this is something. Like this is gonna be good. I was like 12, 13 years old when that test footage first came out because I was 2012, 2013. But just following that every step of the way and then finally seeing it come to fruition was just really great to see. And I was really excited to finally see that become a movie and actually become reality. And the sequel was just fantastic. And it just kept upping the ante. And it's Ryan Reynolds is born to play Deadpool.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, like, isn't that so interesting that he played Deadpool and while they butchered the character in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then he's like hung on. Like you think in that situation, a lot of people would have just cut their losses, like moved on with a different actor. But Ryan Reynolds just hung on, and like look at him now. Like so many people, including myself, like that's such a perfect casting. Like he does so well as Deadpool. So that's just blows my mind that they just butchered the Deadpool character in that movie, and then he just totally blew the franchise out of the water with his other movies.
It's so fantastic because as like we've had so many great superhero movies as of late. Thank you, Kevin Feige. But we've had a lot of bad ones, and I love that Ryan Reynolds has been able to stick to that character and almost make a joke of itself, for years. And it's only going to get better because we're going to get into Phase 4, and as Deadpool enters the MCU, there's the material and the content for kind of like jokes is just going to keep going up and up and up. And I got to give you my three. My three is Logan. Number one, Logan, pure perfection, man. This movie left me like not wanting to leave my seat when those credits hit the screen. I just, by far the most emotional superhero movie of all time, even more so than Endgame. And I am a huge Endgame fan. It just left me speechless. So James Mangold, if you want to join the DCEU, you're always welcome. We're waiting for you. And then X-Men First Class is my number two. Just such a great film. That scene of McAvoy and Fassbender when basically Professor X is coaching Magneto to move the satellite with the score. Hands down, one of my favorite superhero scenes of all time. Just a great movie overall. And that was like at a time when like the X-Men was just so dead. It was just so refreshing, and it brought me hope because I love the X-Men. And then my third one is X2. X2, man, has hands down the best opening scene of a superhero movie of all time with Nightcrawler in the White House. Do you guys remember that scene?
Yes. Oh man, that was awesome.
Dude, that was
that's like so impressive because that's like back when superhero movies were like not even a thing, So like the fact that they did that so well is just fantastic. Like that's just amazing.
Yeah, man. And then Bryan Singer at his finest right there. And then you had the teaser with Phoenix at the end. Remember, like you look at the water, you could see Jean Grey becoming Phoenix. That was like all three of these movies right here. That moment when the credits hit, the screen and just threw me for a loop, man. Just three great films. All right, let's move on to Phase 4 of the MCU and forward with the X-Men. All right, Isaac, you are Kevin Feige. How would you implement the mutants and the X-Men into the MCU? Go ahead, man.
The no-brainer has got to be WandaVision. Like, we have no idea what is going on with this show at this point. Like, the trailer that they've dropped, they're just like going through a bunch of weird like visions basically that she's having. Like if they did some, and we've talked about this on our Infinity Bro podcast, if they do some type of like House of M, like kind of mashup or whatever, and somehow like start in quotations there, the X-Men universe in the MCU through that, that's like got to be my best possible scenario for how the X-Men come into the MCU. Because I mean, how else do you do it? Like if you have Wolverine come into Captain Marvel, like haven't mutants existed like since, the beginning of, all the superheroes as well. So how do you explain that away through 3 Marvel movies that we've had that they haven't even been mentioned, So I feel like WandaVision, there has to be some connection with WandaVision and with Scarlet Witch through because obviously her connection as a mutant, and I think have they referenced that? Were they allowed to reference that? I'm trying to think if they did during would have been Age of Ultron that she came in, but she's got the connection obviously, and it just makes the most sense to do it through her, and especially that show because like I said, we have no idea what the heck is going on with that show as of right now. So I think that would be the best way to do it.
That's what's so fun about this, right? Like there's so many different avenues. I didn't even list that as my potential options, but you're right, man. Like Scarlet Witch opening up different dimensions and universes absolutely is a path to the mutants. What about you, Jack?
I think I have two options. I think the first it's more of an interesting one. Well, the first is one would be Isaac. I think what he said kind of just hit it right on the head. I mean, especially if her children are going to be in technically they're also mutants. It's just like Quicksilver could also possibly be worked back into it. I think it's just so easy to implement that through. And another route that I think would be interesting is kind of like a little bit almost how they did the Justice League, like kind of how they had like the security footage, but instead have it be through the Daily Bugle. So kind of like talking about like sightings of these more like, I guess you would call them personified heroes, like the superheroes amongst us. I mean, they could just like call mutants and then call through that and then maybe build up somehow through that. I mean, that's just a toss around idea, something new, maybe just a theory, something they could possibly do.
Okay. Personally, I really like the idea of having like mutants in multiple movies. I don't want to see like one X-Men movie. I want to see multiple mutants be in multiple films. So I would like to see, when you look at like Civil War, for example, like that movie wasn't bogged down by too many superheroes. It didn't convolute the plot. It didn't stop from making the introduction of Black Panther or Spider-Man any worse. It was fine. Civil War was great. So I would like to see, before we get that solo X-Men movie, I would really like to see Storm, a lot of the main characters that we're going to get into, who we want as part of the core X-Men later. But my preference for this, like for Kevin Feige, is to implement the X-Men as a small team. So I'm 34 years old, and I grew up to X-Men, the animated series. And the best part of this was having a small group of mutants with a lot of guests every week, kind of weaving in and out of this core team of mutants. It just made the world feel so much better. And I think some of the best X-Men stories really is small scale. It's when X-Men is at its best is when it asks, really kind of existential questions. Like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be extraordinary? That's when X-Men is kind of at its best. And, you already have like the Avengers and heroes like Spider-Man, they're already out there. People love the Avengers. They've saved the world in the MCU several times. We kind of saw it, the seeds of that being planted in like Age of Ultron. Like they're starting to kind of dislike the Avengers, but I think overall, I think everyone can agree that everyone loves the Avengers. How cool would it be to set up the mutants as people that normal people fear? So you have the Avengers that are here that are like, these are gods. These people have earned their right as like the best of the best. And then you have these mutants that have come like during that blip time frame that suddenly start coming in and out of the MCU, and people fear them and they don't know what it is, why. And we'll get into villains in a little bit. But that's what I would like to see before we see that first X-Men movie. I want to see just kind of Rogue be established in Captain Marvel 2. We'll get into that. Maybe Namor, all these different kind of mutants be established in different movies. And that way, we finally don't get that first X-Men movie that's just so like jam-packed of all these characters, introductions and origins. I don't give a damn about that. I just want to see an awesome X-Men movie, a small scale kind of that's kind of exactly what I want to see from Fantastic Four, to be honest. But that's where I want to go. I want to go kind of start them off all over the place, and then then we eventually get the X-Men movie. Let's talk about what characters, X-Men characters, you would like the MCU to focus on. Go ahead, Isaac.
All right. So for this one, I was thinking, and I was like, you know what? I don't have like a specific couple of characters that I'd like them to focus on, but what I would like them to do is to just focus on some characters that we haven't, like bring to the front some characters that we haven't really explored a ton yet. So back off a little bit on Wolverine and Jean Grey. Like I love those characters. They need to be in the MCU, but just like make them a little bit, further in the background, and, let like, give Cyclops another shot, give like a couple of these other characters that we saw in other movies, like even Storm too, like give them another chance to shine, or whatever you want to say it, like instead of, focusing solely on, which all of these movies have been focused on Wolverine and Jean Grey, like pretty much all of them are through their lens, and Professor X to an extent too. But yeah, just some different, like just mix it up a little bit, that's what I feel like I want to see.
I fully agree, man. Go ahead, Jack.
I think that would mesh very well is Beast. I mean, just with, if you have Professor Hulk as a thing now, I think him and Beast could kind of be something that can mesh very well and relate to one another. And I think that's one that could kind of be a prominent character if they decide to keep Mark Ruffalo and Hulk as part of this ongoing universe. I think that's probably one of the best ones. Angel, maybe. I think that could be an interesting one. Jubilee, I think could be another possible one. I mean, those are probably my three that would maybe bump up more than they have in movies past.
You saw this one coming, so I'm going to lead off with Rogue. The last time we saw Rogue, her decent. Last time she had decent screen time was X2, so it's been a long time since we've seen Rogue. It'll be really cool to see Rogue kind of be that threat, and then kind of come into, be a mutant, be an X-Men, and kind of everyone's kind of unsure about Rogue's kind of motivations and all that kind of stuff. I got to have Wolverine. Sorry, I got to have Wolverine. He's the central character here. I'm going Gambit. So kind of similar to you, Isaac. I am 100% on board with Professor X, Magneto, probably Mystique. All these characters, kind of give them like time. Like we'll get to them maybe Phase 5 and beyond. But I want to make guys like Gambit, Storm, Beast, Kitty Pryde needs a bigger role.
I think Channing Tatum is still on the Gambit train. Do you think he still wants to play it?
God hope so, man. That would be perfect.
Dude, I honestly, I'm all for it. Let's see it.
Yeah, just Gambit. It's a crime. It's a crime that Gambit has not been on the big screen yet. We saw him. I think what was it, X-Men Origin or Wolverine Origins or something. One of those. Yeah. It was terrible. It was terrible. But Gambit needs his chance. I would like to make these characters kind of central to the X-Men story, not Magneto, not Professor X. We'll get to them in a little while. So yeah, that's my thing. Rogue, Wolverine, Storm. Those are my top three, and then kind of everyone else kind of fades in. Let's talk about villains in the MCU and X-Men. Isaac, what are your favorite X-Men villains, and which of those villains would you want to implement into the MCU?
Honestly, like the one that I've read the most is Magneto, and he's kind of your classic X-Men villain. But one I'd like to talk about is Mr. Sinister. Like, yeah! I think what we need to do here is we just need like a fresh X-Men that is not in no way connected to the Fox franchise. So what they need to do is they need to start off with some different villains and just like keep that train going. Just keep it like new, keep it fresh. Basically, don't let people associate their X-Men with the Fox X-Men, pretty much. And like, I love Magneto. I do. And I think he should be involved, but I think he doesn't need to be the big bad guy as he has been through basically all of these movies, So I think if we showcase another big X-Men villain like Mr. Sinister, that would be fantastic. I would love that.
Go ahead, Jack.
So, I mean, a minor one. I mean, I love the Centennial. I think the Centennials are something that could mesh well in this current universe. I mean, if you kind of have like people being scared of the mutants, and this government kind of implementing Centennials as these mutant hunters, I think that'd be something that could implement very well in the current MCU. And in terms of larger scale villains, I think Apocalypse could be one that could be like an overarching villain, maybe something they could lead towards. I mean, I just hope he's done more justice than he was in the X-Men movie Apocalypse first time around, but I think that's something that you'll look forward to, maybe as an overall MCU villain if you're looking for something alongside. If you have Norman Osborn's kind of more the psychological, and then you have Apocalypse as more of the physical villain of sorts. I think that's something that could be interesting.
Totally. I love the idea of like this prejudice towards mutants. And I don't know if Hollywood would or Kevin Feige would ever greenlight a movie that's really small scale like that. But the idea of like William Stryker and the prejudice and a religious prejudice towards mutants, that would be really, really fun. Like I think in terms of a film, it would be excellent, but it wouldn't be very big scale. So I don't know if that will be ever greenlight, but yeah, Mr. Sinister.
That'd be like one of those like Joker type films. Like it would probably be a big hit everywhere. It just wouldn't fit into the MCU basically. But yeah. I'm in on that. Like if that comes up, like I'm going,
Totally. Like hatred towards mutants. Like that's when the X-Men's at its best, man. There's like, you got to make the X-Men the underdogs. That's when they're really, really good, and making them that fear of the mutant, the fear of that should be the focus when, people in respect love the Avengers, but, the idea that anyone could be a mutant and no one knows who is who and, what is what, that would be really, really fun. But I got to talk to you about Mr. Sinister. Unlike the Fantastic Four, I'm like Doctor Doom. You got to go straight all in Doctor Doom. Just like you said, Isaac, like Magneto, all those guys can wait. But let's talk about Mr. Sinister because he is hands down the top supervillain here that has never made it to the big screen. The MCU is about to introduce the X gene, and what better way to introduce Mr. Sinister? Because all he is, he's this like obsessed with genetic alteration. He's lived forever. He could be your like gap filler between where the hell have the mutants been this whole time. So there's a lot of like potential options for Mr. Sinister to kind of fill in all those answers for the X-Men. One vote for Mark Strong as Mr. Sinister. That'd be really, really badass. So yeah, we already mentioned William Stryker. I love your idea, Jack. That the religious prejudice towards mutants would be so good, but I just don't know how it translates right now. It would just be awesome, like Joker, like you said, Isaac. And then we have Strife. Yeah, Strife is a clone of Cable. So how funny would it be to have Josh Brolin come back with Deadpool coming back to the MCU, and that would just be he's Thanos. Now he was Cable, and now he's this villain. Like, that would be really, really fun.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. I mean, like, I think he did a great job with Cable. I felt that was really well done. I think he definitely did really enjoy the role also. And I think that'd be kind of funny to see him go from one major character to the other. And I feel like that's something, well, I mean, Deadpool kind of poked fun at it in Deadpool 2. He said something about Thanos. I forget exactly what it was.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think that would just be. I think that's something. I mean, that's what Deadpool's perfect for, just poking fun at these things. He could definitely just say something like, "Didn't you just like dust away like 2 weeks ago?"
It'd be hilarious. It'd be so. It would just that I would really respect that decision. Just Kevin Feige, I would really respect if you literally put Josh Brolin in another movie and he's the villain. That'd be hilarious. Strife is the guy that releases this virus that targets X genes and kills mutants and has their powers go wildly out of control. So that could be a fun plot. And then the last one I have is Selene. So Kevin Feige has said repeatedly, Mahershala Ali and Blade, that the vampires are coming to the MCU very soon. So Selene is this vampire and she's this immortal. That would be a way to kind of introduce vampires there. Any last comments on villains before you move on to our last question?
I don't think I have any. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good too.
All right, Mr. Sinister it is. So, last question. If your best childhood friend was a mutant, what kind of powers would you want him to have? Go ahead, Isaac.
Oh, man. I didn't put a lot of thought into this one, but I like kind of the one that you would think of right away would be like changing powers like Mystique. Like, just think of as a kid what kind of mischief you could get into if you had a friend who could change into literally whatever you wanted. Like you could like sneak into just about anything because you would have permission from them who change into, somebody who's in charge or whatever. Like you could get into so much stuff. It'd be awesome.
We're on the same page here, man. Go ahead, Jack.
He kind of took mine. I think that was kind of perfect. I mean, also maybe
We're all on the same page.
Invisibility, maybe. I mean, just kind
of
be able to sneak places. I think that'd be another kind of along the same lines of just causing mischief. Kind of like how Isaac said, kind of perfectly. Stole mine, punk.
I mean, I think of Nightcrawler. I think of teleportation. Imagine going into your local six-pack store,
just vamping all over the place.
As a kid, like, is that like not your dream as a kid to like just
freaking people out?
Just be a blast. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up, and we'll say goodbye. Go ahead, Isaac.
Honestly, I'd just like to say thanks for having me on. First of all, really excited. Like I've been following you guys for a while. Really like all the content that you guys put out. And I would like to say just for the X-Men, like I'm so pumped for the X-Men to be part of the MCU. So honestly, just the fact that they're here is enough to get me like jacked. Like I'm so excited to see X-Men in the MCU. Like, I honestly, I don't care how it happens now. Like, it's happening, and I'm excited for it. So,
love it, man. I'll plug your show soon. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'll be definitely really exciting to see going forward how they implement them. They could go so many ways, and I think it'll just be really great to see them kind of, for the first time really ever in our eyes, just meshed with the MCU people. It's really going to be exciting to see. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm also excited. But a story that I want Kevin Feige to implement, my last thought here is Hulk versus Wolverine. I have no clue how they're going to put this in. We got some, loving with Planet Hulk. That was hands down. I was so excited when we found out that it was going to be in Thor Ragnarok. I don't know how you're going to change the narrative on the Hulk's character or change his arc. I don't even know if that's probably the best idea. But the best way to implement Wolverine into the MCU is Hulk versus Wolverine.
That'd be fantastic.
Right? A little nugget here is that distribution rights, there's a rumor that the Hulk rights have gone to Marvel and Disney. So something to watch for with She-Hulk being in development and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what's going to happen. But, man, the Hulk versus Wolverine on the big screen as like a way to set up, this new Wolverine character, that's the way to go. And that's, like I said, I have no idea how that could work. I have no idea. Like,
like you'd have to pull a Black Widow probably and do like a pre like almost origin-y type story or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
But like that's the one way that I could see it probably happening.
Yeah, you can't fuck up. Like,
oh man, if they did that, I would be so excited. Oh my gosh.
The Hulk is an OG Avenger, man. You can't fuck up the Hulk. Like he's like kind of on his way in. He's got a busted arm. Like this is like the last I think of the Hulk, unless She-Hulk kind of alters something. I don't know. But that's my comment. I want Hulk versus Wolverine. That would be my personal preference. Not part of the MCU, but that would be so fucking cool to have Hulk Wolverine. Jack. Follow Jack on Twitter at Jack Connell TPL. And make sure you follow the Infinity Bros on Twitter and Isaac. All right, so that is at _Infinity_Bros Infinity. Isaac, plug your show, man. Tell us a little bit about it.
All right, so we are the Infinity Bros. We're a group of 6 dudes who we went to college together. We just like love talking nerd culture, like just anything MCU basically. I mean, we have a couple guys who are DC guys like yourself. We just love basically anything that has to do with nerd culture. So yeah, you can check us out. We actually just launched our new website, theinfinitybros.com. So you can come there and you can get all of our links. You can listen to our podcast on there. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We just started a TikTok. I don't even know what a TikTok is, but we got one. So, but yeah, so, my name is Isaac. I'm Infinity Bro Isaac. You can find me at ISAKOLISTIC on Twitter. And the Infinity Bros, as I already said, is at _Infinity_Bros_. Like, it's a long one, but anyways, yeah. And then definitely go check out our website, and you can get all the links there for sure. So theinfinitybros.com. Thanks again so much for having me on here, guys. It's been a blast.
Dude, it's been an honor, man. For Jack, for Isaac, for myself. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Stay awesome.